This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
All right, let's do this, guys. Let's welcome on from A to Z Sports, Detroit Lions beat writer, absolute legend, Mike Payton. Mike, appreciate you joining the show. How are you doing?
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me. It's awesome.
Oh, for sure. Mike, I want us to start off with this. Obviously, it was a long preseason, and you probably you know covering it, the training camp and mini camp. Now that we're finally getting to the season, 53-man rosters announced today. With all of that you saw, just what is just the shocking and is there anything shocking to you that you saw today that you're like, I can't believe that happened, or I can't believe this guy got cut, or anything like that, especially going through the whole preseason with the Lions? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, there was a couple. The first one is Shane Zylstra. Just kind of the way that the season or the summer had been going with training camp and preseason, it just really seemed like this was a guy that they were totally going to have on the team. He had looked good. He had been working with the ones and twos and kind of was bouncing around a little bit. But at the end of the day, they decided to go with Parker Hess, which makes a lot of sense since he can be your fullback and tight end, and he can do some special team stuff. And he was actually a defensive end in college at Iowa. So there's always a emergency chance of having to do that. Hopefully you don't lose you don't lose enough guys to where you have to have your tight end play defensive end. But he has it. He has that ability. And the other one is Nate Sudfeld, which I know is going to sound surprising to a lot of Lions fans, but we went through an entire summer of basically being told over and over and over again, including up to just this yesterday, Monday, that Hendon Hooker's not quite ready to be the quarterback 2 yet. They're going to carry 3 quarterbacks, and Nate Sudfeld has the edge because he has more experience. And we were told this just over and over and over again. And then they cut Nate like less than 24 hours later. So, they do have a roster spot open. I know they just signed Tim Patrick, but they signed him to the practice squad. So, I wouldn't rule out a quarterback. I really wouldn't. So we'll see where that goes.
Do you have anyone, Mike? Because we actually talked about that earlier. Do you have anyone on your list that got cut today that you like a quarterback that could be a backup outside of Hendon Hooker?
I think Bailey Zappi is somebody that you could look at. He's a guy that obviously you're not going to get any Pro Bowlers or anything off the waiver wire and free agency, but this is a guy that has at least stepped into regular season games, played, helped win some games, has started multiple games last year. He started the last 5 games of the season for the Patriots after they finally benched Mac Jones. So he had played that 29-0 win over the Lions in 2022. He looked pretty good that day. So yeah, he's at the top of my list. I really thought Tyler Huntley would be good, but the Browns decided to keep him. So that's another one.
Yeah, and I think a move that I fully support, Mike, and I definitely want to get your opinion on it, is James Houston. Not only keeping him, but moving him back to defensive end. And obviously, they kept 4 defensive ends: Aiden Hutchinson, Marcus Davenport, John Kaminsky, if you want to consider him one. I know he's a tweener. And then obviously James Houston. So when you look at that, what do you expect from James Houston now that he's transitioning and you've seen him have success in the preseason game, even against the Steelers ones out there?
Yeah, I think that, I was actually a little surprised that he made the team because it really seemed like it was trending towards him not making it, just based off the fact that, even Dan Campbell said after the game on Saturday that, that was kind of still up in the air. But this was a guy that they've been trying to make a Sam linebacker for 3 years, and they just couldn't get it done. And finally, they just pulled the plug on it like 2 weeks ago. And they talk a lot about guys who could do a bunch of different things and how important that value is. And as we know, James right now, he can really just do one thing. And if he could do it well enough, then that is awesome. And then they did the right thing and they kept the right guy and all that. And if he can't, then, we'll see. I don't think that they risked anything by keeping him. They lost Isaac Ukwu or cut Isaac Ukwu. I thought he had a really good chance to make the team, but it's not like you're getting rid of a starter, just to keep James Houston. So I think it's a good idea. It's fine. But if he can't get those pass rush moves that he's been working on for a while now, if he can't get those to go, then it could be a problem.
Yeah, and you kind of talked about Tim Patrick a little bit there. Are you comfortable with that signing, and are you comfortable with the wide receiver room in general, or is there another name out there that you're looking for the Lions to add? Obviously, we are talking about a wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5, so we're not going to expect too much out of them. But just your overall, are you comfortable in the wide receiver room after that signing?
Hey guys, I interrupted today's video to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, and that is BetUS. Currently, BetUS is offering you a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits for up to $2,000. Now, terms and conditions apply. Please bet responsibly. Link will be in the description. Sign up using our link. And with the football season coming around, Detroit Lions fans, you want to make some extra money. Well, there are lines that are currently out there that I like. For example, and I'll show you this one. Aiden Hutchinson is plus 1,200 to win Defensive Player of the Year. If I'm telling you right now, that is favorable. Good odds on a player that is expected to have a monster year. Only on betus.com. Check it out. Let's get back to the video.
Yeah, I mean, they needed an X receiver, and anybody who follows me on Twitter or reads any of my articles knows that I've been talking about this since February. I mean, it's like the only thing I've been talking about. I maybe talk about it too much. I think people are getting annoyed with me. But they had no big guy. They had no receiver that could high point the ball or get a contested catch, and they lost Josh Reynolds, and I know people are upset about the NFC Championship game, but that was the guy who caught 40 passes last year, and 32 of them were for first downs. He was a huge part of this offense. So getting a guy that can go out and do something like that's huge. And Tim Patrick, while he hasn't played in the last 2 years with 2 really bad injuries, before that he was a spectacular player. He was a guy that could have been a breakout player had he had more time to play and not torn his ACL and then tore his Achilles. So we'll see what they get. I kind of feel like, maybe they should get one more guy. I like Isaiah Hodgins from New York.
Yeah, Mike. They diss me for Isaiah Hodgins.
Yeah, I think that he's, and that's a guy that they just spent an entire week watching at joint practices and in the preseason game. And the only reason he doesn't make the Giants is because they've got Slayton and Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson, and they're just kind of set there. They just didn't need him. So yeah, I think they probably just stick with what they have and see what Tim Patrick can do. But I don't know. We'll see. If he's not good, then we'll see what happens in November at the trade deadline.
Hey, Mike, I'm with you. I've been calling out the wide receiver stuff for a while. People were mad because I said I don't know if DPJ is it. Through minicamp, Dan didn't really he wasn't saying anything positive about him. It was me and you were lockstep with that. Other side of the ball though, Mike. We right before you came on, we were talking about the depth of the secondary and that depth, that how big that room is now and how many guys they kept, the 5 safeties as well. What are your thoughts on the secondary? Do you think they could take a big jump from last year? Because I know last year that was the downfall of this defense was the corners and obviously we do have the safety room is pretty stacked. But do you think they could take a big step forward? Obviously, with adding those pieces and seeing Lawrence Strickland join the room, Brandon Joseph, feels like they kind of upgraded even the depth within that whole room there. What are your thoughts on that with those guys?
Well, I'll tell you first, man, I cannot wait to see Lawrence Strickland in the regular season. I've been such a huge fan of this guy, and I think he's going to be one of those guys that if you've watched him play, the way that he hits, he throws his entire body at guys. He's going to have those Sonic Ring memes his entire career. He's going to be hitting guys and you'll see Sonic Rings. It's going to be awesome. In terms of the rest of the secondary, I mean, that's what this whole season's about, right? That's what we're all hoping that this team can fix and can come along, because last year they, while everyone thinks that the defense was super bad last year, it really wasn't. They were 13th in total DVOA. They had allowed the 12th fewest yards. They were actually a pretty decent defense. They did get burnt from time to time. So if they can get this secondary together, we're looking at a top 10 defense here to go along with already one of the top 5 offenses in the league. So, I mean, this is exactly what you want at this time. They did everything right. They just need everything to go their way. And for Terrion Arnold to be the real deal, which I believe he is, and for Carlton Davis to get some of that shutdown in him that he's got. We've seen him a little bit. We've seen him lock down, Jamar Chase and a couple other guys, and he just needs to bring that energy all the time. And Amik Robinson, I think, is going to be spectacular nickel. I mean, he's going to be really, really fun to watch. I can't wait to see what this team looks like starting week 1 here pretty soon.
Real quick, just to follow that up with those guys. What is your expectations for Ennis Rakestraw? Do you think he kind of gets like, where do you think he fits into this? Obviously a rotational piece. Just what are your expectations kind of for his rookie season?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like he's a ball hawk, and as soon as they put the pads on in camp, like he was picking everybody off. And we were calling him pick straw there for a minute. Like,
I like that.
Yeah. And trademark. I'm going to trademark that. I think he's going to be good. I'm really interested to see how much they rotate him in the nickel as well, because as soon as he got here, that was one of the first things they started doing with him. Like in rookie minicamp, they were seeing if he could play inside and outside. So I think obviously he'll play more outside than anything else, but I would love to see him inside. The way that the Lions have talked about their secondary in both the corners and safeties, they talk about it as like it's going to be constantly rotating. So there will be a lot of different things going on. Obviously, whoever is hot will stay out there longest, but I think that they're gonna have a lot of different looks.
And Mike, before Booner brought that up, you talked about the top 5 offense, and really that's all ran through the offensive line. And I think there's a lot of confidence in this offense, but somewhere that I think every Detroit Lions fan right now has zero confidence is that offensive line depth, specifically on the tackles. I think a guy like Colby Sorsdahl, we all expect to look a little bit better. I know he's transitioning to tackle, so it's going to be kind of a growing pain thing for him, but I still think there was times during that preseason where you're like, if anyone goes down between Panay or Taylor Decker just for one game, there could be major problems on this offensive line. What do you think that the right perspective should have? Are you confident regardless of the lack of depth? Where do you stand on the offensive line as far as the depth goes?
I would love an upgrade at swing tackle for this team. Dan Skipper, everybody loves him. Like he's a fan favorite, and I totally get that. But I would worry if Taylor Decker or Panay Sewell went down and Dan Skipper was replacing them. And I would worry even more if it were Colby Sorsdahl. You talk about having to worry if Colby went in and, it takes me back to the practice where Panay Sewell got hurt. Colby went in for him and immediately gave up a sack to Aiden Hutchinson. So, it's very scary if any of these tackles go down. And we know that this is an offensive line that has had a lot of injury history. I think the inside of the line is a lot better. I think Michael Neese and Coyote Awasika, I feel a little bit more comfortable about that. Plus, you could slide Graham around as well. But yeah, definitely could use another tackle. And I kind of thought maybe they would look for one, but looks like they're going to go ahead and stick with Skip and Sorsdahl. But Sorsdahl needs time for sure.
Yeah. And Mike, obviously we got DJ returning. What type of impact do you think he will have on the defense, and how significant is it to get him back for week 1?
That's huge. The Bengals, I can't remember which Bengals defensive player said it, but it was like having DJ on the defense essentially opened everything up for the linebackers and the secondary to do their job better, because he's such a big guy. He's a space eater. He's going to take 2 offensive linemen with him essentially every rep, and that's going to open up a hole for somebody, whether it's Aiden or Aleem or Marcus Davenport. So it's gigantic to have him there. Plus he continues the run stop ability that the Lions were, the best in the league at last year. They only got better in that facet. So yeah, it's huge. He's definitely going to be a gigantic change for this team.
Mike, final question here. I just want to throw this out there. I know the practice squad stuff's coming tomorrow. Do you think that the Lions are is there any projected moves that you have, whether it's bringing more guys in? Is there anyone that you're looking at that we haven't talked about yet, or kind of the listeners can keep an eye on? And as well as even just Lions guys that were let go today, do you have a couple guys that for sure potentially will be on, like an Ukwu? Will an Ukwu end up getting back on the practice squad? I know that's kind of a 2-part question, but do you have a feel for any of that?
Yeah, I mean, I would be shocked if they don't bring Isaac Ukwu back. The only guy that I really know that they're planning to bring back, or it's been reported that they're planning to bring back, is Abraham Bopeland. linebacker who was pretty good during the preseason. They're thinking about bringing him back for the practice squad. I would imagine they bring back Jake Funk, maybe Jamar Jefferson. They'll probably, try to get as many guys as they let go back as they can. In terms of guys that, that they could add, I have a couple. Sione, or it's not Sione Vaki.
Dog,
Siaki,
by the way. Dog.
Yeah, he's a dog, man. Siaki Ika is the guy I was thinking was a 3rd-round pick last year and really, really struggled for Cleveland. He's defensive tackle, nose tackle. They cut him after just 1 year. But, I look at him like, you bring this guy in on the practice squad. He has the athleticism. He has the size. You get him with Terrell Williams and, the rest of this coaching staff. And maybe you see what you got. You're not really too bought into anything with a practice squad contract, but maybe you have something there. And if it doesn't work out, then, hey, you just let him go. But if it does, then you got maybe a guy who can contribute for a while. And then the other guy is my guy, Luis Rees-Sammet, who is from the UK. He's actually a former rugby player. He was with the Chiefs for a while. He's like
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he's like a running back receiver type thing, but he's also a kicker. Like he was doing kickoff duty for them.
Guy.
Yeah, he's like, he still needs to learn how to play football, but but I like the athleticism. I like the ability to do multiple things, and Dave Phipp and Dan Campbell have both said to us in the media room that that's what they're looking for. They want guys who can do more and that can bring value by doing a bunch of different things. So I like that's a dream. Like I even wrote on Twitter that I would cut Brad Holmes' lawn for a year if they signed Luis Rees-Sammet to the practice squad.
Hey,
is this true too, Mike?
Have you do that?
Does he work at a fish market as well? If that's true.
Who's that?
They were saying that he does it all. He's a kick returner. He's also he does all the special teams like he was saying, but he also works at a fish market. I'm assuming if he's kind of at the lower end off season, got to pay the bills possibly.
Well, you don't make a whole lot of money on the practice squad.
That's what I'm saying. Got to pay the bills.
You got to do what you got to do, man.
Bring him into Detroit. You'll work at Eastern Market before the games. That's
it'd be perfect.
Honest work.
It's a really
all right, Mike. Hey, appreciate you tuning in or joining the show here. Hey, I'm gonna say this, Mike. We need to have you on more often. I follow you on Twitter. Great follow, by the way, too. If no one's following Mike, if you want to shout out actually all of your stuff where people can find you on socials and as well as where all your articles are and everything.
Okay. Well, I'll start. You guys can Venmo me as much money as you want. No, I'm not going to put my Venmo out there. You can find me on Twitter at A_Payton. And that's all I've got going on right now. We do have a historical Pistons podcast called Bad Boys and Beyond. We're kind of on a hiatus at the moment because today was the most insane day ever. I just got out of this chair like an hour ago. So we will bring that back. It's a fun thing that we do during the NBA season. And that's the other thing. And then you can find all our articles at A_Detroit or A_Z. Excuse me. I'm so tired, guys. A2sports.com/Detroit.
Hey, it's been a long day.
Mike.
Yeah.
Appreciate you joining the show. We'll get you on here in the next couple of weeks too, leading up to the season. Appreciate it a ton.
For sure, man. I'm always down.
Thanks, Mike.
Right.
Later.
Peace.
This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.